play a huge part as well. We've seen a lot of teams in the past that they kind of rely. I mean, Salty Potatoes or Space Station Gaming now are a really good example of a team that relies a lot on comfort picks, and now they're in a meta that really suits them because those comfort picks are strong. But we are jumping into draft number 1 of this series, and Krull will be the first ban coming out from SK. A little bit surprising, that one.
A little bit surprising, but it's also just that takeaway of making sure that either the Rhyme or the Black Feather gets through. You have to assume they're going to get the Black Feather for themselves. And now Qlash, you gotta wonder if are they gonna put the priority on the Vox. This has historically been a heavy focus for this squad with Mercillies, and SK Gaming, they obviously know this. So if I'm side of SK, if Vox doesn't get picked up here, I very likely end up banning it away on the second rotation. So Qlash should be aware of that and should have a plan set up as a contingency plan in case it does happen.
This Owned is playing for the team right now, so they do have the player that played for them last weekend, which allowed them to play a little bit better. They take the Lyra and the banner, the Ardent. It's a standard strategy that a lot of teams have been doing in the draft, but in my personal opinion, it's not the best just because there are so many different captain heroes that a team will always get. There's the Lance, there's the Grace, there's the Catherine, there's even the Fortress. So denying the top tier, while it does hold the opponent at a disadvantage, it's not the biggest one.
Interesting to see SK ban away the Saw, because they have the Black Feather, who we've seen do fairly well up into a Saw pick, and it's something that I think they could have just let through, but maybe it's something that Mercillies has been practicing a whole lot, because again, usually it's Vox for Mercillies, and we've historically said if Mercillies doesn't have Vox, then the team just doesn't look as coordinated and as clean in their gameplay. So it'll be still up in the air if the Vox is going to be available. I don't think SK is going to grab it. They're very likely going to be looking to put this Black Feather in the lane. Qlash taking away the Samuel. That's another one of Tyrus's kind of fallback picks.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went for the Grace here. It synergizes really well with the Black Feather. We talked about it many times in the past. When Black Feather dives in, they heal following up is very significant. There's also Catherine open. They could go for the Catherine Batiste that is still available. And this is a composition that works very good against the Samuel because you can lock him down with multiple CC. At the same time, it doesn't work the best against triple range, which is possible to come out from Qlash.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about this Samuel pick as well from Qlash, because it's not just a takeaway from Tyrus, but this is something, it's easily one of Agony's most played heroes and something that we've seen him have a lot of success. So definitely a pick that they're very, very comfortable with. And when you look at the Qlash lineup right now, it's a solid lineup of things that they know that they can rely on as a pick.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe SK looks for this Reza again. It'll be a heavy dive composition to try and jump onto this Samuel, but it's going to be the Alpha. So I love the fact that Tyrus is starting to pick up some of the more more meta heroes on Update 2.9. The fact that this is showing SK's adaptation to the update is very, very good to see, especially for a team that is trying to get that World's bid. And now Qlash, I mean, they're going to have their work cut out for them. They do have a fairly strong kiting composition already. I think Vox would fit into this extremely well, but they're going to have to make sure they can kite efficiently, that they don't just, get chased down while they're trying to kite away.
I mean, a Kestrel would round out like a classic siege composition here for Qlash. The question would be, are they going to be able to kite well enough to go into the likes of an Alpha and Black Feather?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with a Kestrel, you can have a lot of sieging, a lot of range, but the kiting potential is not great. As of right now, the only peel they have is the Bulwark coming from Lyra, and that's why I was going to say Vox does make a little bit more sense because it has more mobility. It can kite out against the triple melee a little bit better. And if he decides to go for a build I talked about yesterday, if he goes for the Poison Shift first into a Breaking Point, into a Bonesaw with a lot of defense, those are three offensive items that are very cheap, and it gives you exactly what you need against this composition. The Poison Shift to reduce the sustain and the barriers from Black Feather, then you have the Breaking Point to stack as the team fights go on longer and longer, which is to be expected, and the Bonesaw to shred the armor. So, in my opinion, itemization can be crucial in this game.
The concern I have for the side of Qlash is that while they are a team composition that's going to be trying to kite and trying to move away from SK, there are so many slows on the side of SK. Alpha can get up to an 80% slow with her Prime Directive. You have a slow coming out from Grace. You have slows coming out from Black Feather. Like, all three members on SK can slow these targets. And if the bulwarks are not perfect, they're going to just get chased down every single fight.
Honestly, even if they're perfect, I don't think they're going to be enough because it's only one bulwark after every 15-20 seconds, and you have so many gap closing abilities on the side of SK, and with a composition that is so strong right now at 2.9, I feel like they will most likely come out on top of this game.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about the jungle matchup specifically. Obviously, Tyrus is the player to watch. He's going to be on Alpha. He's going up against Samuel, though. We saw Samuel have a lot of success in early aggression yesterday in our quarterfinals. Are we expecting Agony to be able to take it to him on this Samuel in the early game?
The concern would be because of the reboot that Alpha has, if Samuel can get enough damage to actually burn through that health bar. Because, you know, with the Drifting Dark, he can get a ton of damage down, but if you take the Alpha down with the Drifting Dark, you're likely not going to have enough damage because you're not going to be in the Drifting Dark any longer while Alpha is rebooting. All
right, it's time to get on into our first semi-final here in Europe. Let us know on Twitter who you are supporting. It's SK Gaming going up against Qlash. Qlash looking to find themselves an upset. It's time to pass it over to our casters and get on into game one of our first semi-final.
Thank you very much, Munch. I am Medic, and I'm joined by Denominate today. As I was yesterday, and we had such great action yesterday, I'm sure it will carry over into the semi-finals and finals of today's matchup. It's SK up against Qlash to start us off. What are you most excited about here, Denominate?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of the line for Europe right now. There's only really two teams that are like in a real contention for that world's bid. SK and G2 are those teams, so we'll have to see if we get something finalized today. I think when I was doing my calculations the other day that it was only, I think, 7 points this week that SK needs to get. So they're definitely, if they win this week, they'll be looking good.
Knowing the SK players, they'll want to get a little bit more than that. Hegman's got a lot of disowned here as well as he's chunked him out. Probably going to see an Elder Treant forced here by SK because they know that Qlash are just that little bit lower, and it's a free Treant for them early on. They will secure. Agony tries to steal it away with a Malice and Verdict, but unable to, and the early advantage goes over to SK Gaming.
Yeah, SK taking a little bit of an edge early is a good start for them. Obviously, you know, this early on in the game, though, anything can change at any given time. And Tyra's on the Alpha with Cavalifar on the Black Feather. This is an incredibly potent combination, and I think that it's something that we really have to see the side of Qlash take very seriously. So the Samuel does have a lot of pushing power when he comes up into the lane, but the Alpha has a lot of dive and survivability for getting onto that backline and being able to safely stay on the backline. So definitely have a lot of power spike advantage for both teams. We'll just have to see how they're able to capitalize on it.
And as much as we talk about SK coming into this game, you have to look at Qlash and think getting through the semifinals is incredibly good for them. They are in those challenge battle spots. It's unlikely they'll be able to get out of it, but being able to perform against a team like SK would be such a good omen for them. The knock-up onto Tyrus as he tries to get in with the Prime Directive. It lands onto Agony. Agony will be the first to fall, and First Blood goes to SK. They're going to chase off towards Massilis as well. Tyrus pops the boots. Massilis with the healing flask, but I don't think he's going to be able to get away from the onslaught that is SK. He manages to get to the Imperial Sigil, and the Prime Directive doesn't connect, and Qlash able to survive with only losing one kill there.
Yeah, Qlash, you know, they're a team that's really come online and been able to hold their own against some of these higher-end teams because they have the mechanical skill to do so. It's just one of those things I always talk about is there's definitely a question of consistency for some of these teams, and Qlash is one of the ones that is in that kind of situation to me. I feel like, you know, if they played at their best all the time, they could be a team that's up at the top and not in the challenge zone. But that's the problem, is that, you know, sometimes we see a Qlash that, you know, they look like they could win the whole week and just be uncontested. In other games, we see them make, you know, constant rotational mistakes, item purchases, positioning disadvantages. So Qlash, definitely a well-renowned team. Agony is a very aggressive jungler who likes these mage pickups, and I really hope that we can see them come into light and, you know, work on that consistency, work on the team synergy, and really start to be a team that needs to be feared by all of Europe.
I'm sure G2 are thinking the same right now as well. If SK lose here, G2 do get closer to that World's qualification spot as well. It's a lot riding on this series, and SK will not want to give it up without a fight. Do see quad crystal bit on Agony as well, going for a lot of CP early on. Hegman will jump on him to try and harass him down. Kvalifar there as well, but it's more poke than anything else, as Qlash will be able to disengage that fight. Iraqi Zoro talked a little bit about itemization for Massili's here on the Vox, you know, getting the poison shiv early on and then going into the breaking point. Do you think that's the optimal build for him here, or do you think there's a few different options for the Vox?
I definitely think the Fox needs to go into a breaking point for sure, specifically because of the amount of sustain as far as his health Tyra's has. Obviously, with that extra life, he's going to be able to get back up and pursue a fight. But if Merciless is able to build up breaking point stacks fairly easily in a fight, then when they drop Tyra's, they'll be able to out-damage that infinite reboot and then keep him down permanently. If we don't have that ramping up damage coming out of Vox, then it's going to be Tyra's just consistently being able to freely roam around the fights, you know, use the core charge, use the prime directive, and, you know, use the termination protocol, and then be able to survive and get back up and continue the assault with the prime directives and the core charges.
We really need to watch Tyra's when these fights do erupt. It's a Summer Blade first for Massili, so not going for that healing and barrier reduction that perhaps we expected. Kvalifar doing a good job of farming up in this lane. He's actually ahead 8 CS over Massili. It's gone down to 6 now, but still incredibly impressive when you're playing a melee interranged matchup. Blackfeather relatively good at farming in the lane, of course, with the on point and with the faint of heart. The jump onto Agony here. He is level 6 and is able to get away. Great overwork will slow them down. Infinite Reboot might be popped here from Tyra's, but he manages to get towards safety at the back of the fight, and no fountain used by SK here. Qlash had to use theirs in that engage.
Yeah, it's definitely SK taking a bit of an advantage here early, but can they keep it up as this Samuel and Vox are clearly going to start to ramp up as the game goes on? And, you know, again, that breaking point can be so devastating. And when Tyra's is in his infinite reboot, it makes it very easy for Merciless to ramp up those breaking point stacks.
Big stun onto the zone then. They're actually going to get a counter kill. Kvalifar is the first to fall. Agony there in the midst of them all. Determination protocol. Oblivion came out onto Tyrus to stop him getting that full engage, but another good holding over onto Massilius. Tyrus realizes he needs to try and run away from this fight, but Massilius is on the chase. Hegman jumps back in to try and keep his jungler alive and will keep him safe for the time being. Ends up being a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, it's been very back and forth as far as the fights go. Agony actually did a massive amount of damage team-wide in that last fight, and this is why we have to, you know, respect the Samuel. So Samuel really excels where multiple targets can be hit by his empowered Malice and Verdicts, and a triple melee composition is literally the perfect scenario for a Samuel to do so, especially if Disown is able to prevent Tyras from getting to the backline. He does have to play a bit back still since the Prime Directive does have an AoE splash on the end of it, but if Kvalifar and Tyras and Hegman are all grouping up, trying to get onto Merciless, or even trying to get onto Agony, he can kite backwards very effectively, throw out those empowered Malice and Verdicts, get a lot of splash damage down. He'll be able to ramp up that Dragon's Eye very easily, and then once he gets the Eve of Harvest online, he's going to provide so much sustain for himself, since he's going to be healing off of all 3 targets of SK.
Exactly what you want to do if you are Qlash here. Disengage, poke, dance around the edge of the fight. SK looking for those all-in engage. They've got double infusion as well, one on Kvalifar, one on Tyras. Asilis, after picking up the poison shiv for his second item, has an infusion sitting in his inventory. So if a fight erupts soon, they have got the ability to answer at least with a single infusion of their own. Qlash looking to fight around this gold miner. SK forcing the incentive in this game, forcing the pace a little bit, drawing Qlash into a bad position, zoned in that front line. There's a bright bulwark, the wait for it comes out, great sleep into silence, and the immense gold payout goes over to Qlash, but here comes the engage. Tyra's trying to jump into the back line, Massili's the first to fall, the Divine Intervention gets the heal as well, but the great arcane passage away from the zone will get him to safety, and they get out with a gold miner and only losing a kill.
Yeah, it was great play by SK. Unfortunately, they did lose out on that gold mine. Qlash was able to secure that one up. They might get the first turret to answer back. And, you know, one kind of important thing to make note here for Hegman. Yes, that double Divine Intervention is going to be a very potent utility tool for the team, He does also have to be very careful not to use it on Tyra's right before he goes into his termination protocol. If that's the case, you're essentially going to waste an ultimate coming out of Grace, because obviously Alpha using termination protocol, whether she gets the heal or not, she's going to be sacrificing herself. So it's kind of hit or miss. You know, if Hegman panics and sees Tyra's low on health, he has to respect the fact that Tyra's is going to know when to use his termination protocol. Because if you're burning your healing skills onto him, then Kvalifar is going to be left on that front line where Agony and Mercilles are going to be able to take him down very easily. And he has gone with the Serpent's Mask for first item, so that is going to give him a bit of sustain, but it's still so much damage scaling that comes out of a Samuel and a Vox that Kvalifar, you know, needs to be a little bit careful about his positioning. He needs to go in once Tyra's has got enough damage down for him to come in and get a clean execute down.
And the Bright Bulwark is so good at blocking that engage as well. You know, you put it down, you stop all of that extra movement coming out from SK. Qlash looking very strong early on in this game. Pretty much even coming up to the 10-minute mark. Turret for turret, a little bit behind in terms of kills, but ahead in gold because of that gold miner. As we get into the mid to late game portion, it feels very much like if Qlash can keep on the backline, if they can keep the kite going and get these Malice and Verdicts and get these Resonance Bounces off, they should be winning out in these team fights.
They definitely should. They definitely have the potential, and both of these teams actually have a fairly good draft into each other, and you know, they have advantages here and there. It's not like anybody, you know, clearly has won out on the draft, as far as my opinion goes, at least. But it is going to be SK finding a little bit of an advantage as far as some of these fights. But because of that gold mine take by Qlash, they've maintained a slight gold lead, which is helping get Mercilles to a point in the game where he can be a huge threat. Agony has the Eve of Harvest complete, Mercilles has the Poison Shiv complete, you touched on that a little bit earlier, and it's going to allow Mercilles to sustain in the fights, as well as he's picked up an Aegis because of how heavily Tyra's has been diving into these fights.
SK are keeping infused on their two carries as well. They want these fights. They want to try and play around their dive composition. They're forcing the Crystal Sentry. We saw them force a gold mine earlier on. They lost that, but of course, Qlash can't deny the Crystal Sentry from SK for the time being. It feels like Qlash are feeling a bit defensive here, a little bit on the back foot, not quite aware of exactly how SK are playing, not quite aware of exactly how close the game is as well, perhaps as well, because SK, you know, they're the giants of Europe at the moment. They're top in the seedings, they're looking for that world spot, and perhaps Qlash feel a little bit wary when approaching such esteemed competition, but they need to be aggressive, they need to be on the front foot, they need to be taking these fights against SK, because otherwise you feel SK can just go in for engages like this. Tyrus jumps into the backline, there's the silence, looking for the Oblivion as well, but it's not come out yet. No Crystal Sentry here, of course, there's the Fountain as well. McKillis jumped on with the Termination Protocol, he's going to come down quite soon. Mercilles just about surviving somehow, there's the Termination Protocol from Tyrus, gets in with the Prime Directive and gets the explosion off for Agony. Survives, and the Oblivion is going to get dodged out there. Actually does connect onto Kvalifar. Qlash might want to turn this one around, but it's a roam and a jungler playing up against those two carries, so they do need to be very cautious trying to get those backs back.
That was an insane fight coming out there. Tyra's was able to make it in and get very, very close to dropping the Agony Samuel, but wasn't able to find the damage. He was able to use his boots and get just out of harm's way, which let him survive in that one. And then obviously the burst coming through onto Disowned. Not the most ideal target, but definitely was threatening and pushed them back. The important thing in that fight, though, was that Agony did throw out a Great Oblivion that had locked down Kvalifar, and that prevented Kvalifar from coming in with any additional chase. If he would have been able to follow Lyra with that Arcane Passage, then he very likely would have been able to find a kill onto Agony, and maybe even clean up an ace onto Disowned. So these fights have been so incredibly close. It's SK finding an advantage here and there, but it's not a convincing advantage. It's not, you know, we're not looking at this game saying, okay, SK is in the driver's seat. This is a quite an even matchup for specifically for the seeding difference that we have here. I mean, this is the #1 seed versus a team that's looking down in the challenge zone right now. And Qlash, again, when they bring their A game, they can compete at the top.
definitely can, and still challenging against SK here. Atlas Pauldron finished for Kvalifar. SK into a fight once again. Kvalifar is going to use the Rose Offensive to go in to start this one off. There's the Atlas Pauldron coming out, right bulwark into the silence. They can turn this one around because there's still Masili stacking up in that backline, but breaking point stacks are on Kvalifar. He's up to 20, and he's trying to dive into this backline straight onto Masili, who's back up to 15 stacks of his own, and Masili's kiting back, cannot get away from Kvalifar, who manages to survive. And now it's all on Agony. Tyra's there with the Crystal Sentry in between the mix of these two teams. Tyra's the first full. Kvalifar trying to get away. The Malice and Verdict will not chase him out. They'll go for Hegman instead. This should be a 2-for-1 in favor of Qlash. So take down the Grace, and they'll say their prayers as they remain in this game up against SK.
These fights are so crazy right now. And you know, we saw it right there. The amount of damage that Agony can put out is absolutely insane when splashing onto multiple targets. The health bars of SK were getting deleted very, very quickly, but Kvalifar was able to make it to the backline. He was able to get an Atlas Pauldron off onto Mercilli's and able to finish off the kill there as well. So that's something that Mercilli's has to be watching out for. If he does get Atlas, Kvalifar is going to win out on these trades almost consistently. And even if he does block it, it's still going to be a little bit risky just because Blackfeather is a decent counter into the Vox, shy of a bit of kiting. As Agony now working into his third offensive item, I have to imagine it's going to be going into that Broken Myth to try to get through the Aegis that Kvalifar has picked up, as well as Tyra's working towards one of his own as well. He should have the gold to get that online very soon here. But again, the fights are very even. There's nobody that's really running away with this game. 15 minutes in the game, and neither one of these teams is really in a comfortable position where they can start up the Kraken and force a fight, because it would just be too risky. They have to look for 1 or 2 kills and then try to take that objective down. But the problem is, in the fights, you've been consistently trading 1 for 1 or 1 for 2. Nobody's ever getting out clean, so that's going to make it difficult to take the Kraken even off of a winning fight.
Tyra's a little bit on the wrong side of this fight. Kvalifar will get a bit of poke in with the point, but Qlash in such a strong position in this game. I don't think any of us would have expected 16 minutes in that they'd be even on gold with SK and be challenging the Kings of Europe. The chase in here, that's not going to be a nice connection. The wait for it is going to come out, doesn't hit onto Kvalifar, and SK are able to disengage. Hegman went all in for that, but wasn't quite able to get the engage, and now SK still on that back foot. Masili is willing to step forward, and I think Qlash will try and get some damage down onto this turret. Actually, looks like they might get the entirety of it because SK have given it up.
Yeah, this is the strength of Samuel. His objective control is so easy to push with. Those empowered Malice and Verdicts can help clear out lane minions incredibly quickly, as well as can devastate a turret. And in that last fight, I don't think we can give Disowned enough credit. SK actually almost made a perfect engagement, but the Bright Bulwark coming out of Disown locked up both Kvalifar and Tyra's, who is in the middle of his prime directive. So that negated a lot of damage that was getting ready to come through right onto Agony. And we really have to give him credit for that play. Obviously, he came onto the team yesterday, or well, he's been on the team, but came out with a big performance yesterday and really meshed well with the team, and it's showing today as well up against SK.
Prime Directive doesn't hit onto Masili's here, but he has overstepped. Perhaps Agony going to try and drift the dark backwards. A great silence going to land. Tyra's in with the Prime Directive, but look at how quick Kvalifar is. Termination Protocol from Tyra's isn't going to hit onto enough people, and now it's all on Masili's. He's stacking up that breaking point. He gets the kill, and Qlash able to engage again with the Arcane Passage. Superb chase here onto Kvalifar, who doesn't have a Rose Offensive to get away. They're going to continue just chasing him down. He's going to try and jump away with the Faint of Heart, but still 10 seconds before he can Rose his way away, and he's amidst the thorns of Qlash. They're going to get 2 kills and can turn their eyes towards the Kraken as well.
Yeah, Hegman is hanging out around here, though. Agony, looking to get some vision here, knows what's going on, and going to help force them out. Now Drifting Dark is down, going to try to help take down this Kraken, and they're taking it quite quickly. And again, Mercilli's is able to ramp up so much damage so quickly against the Alpha when Disowned is doing such a great job creating distance for him. It's been Imperial Sigils to help give Mercilli's a speed boost once Alpha comes in and has burned her gap closers already, and then as well as the Bright Bulwark preventing her from using any of those follow-up abilities. They turn the fight around incredibly quickly and start pushing every advantage they could get. And now it's Qlash marching down the lane with this Kraken, and the amount of barrage that the Samuel can put down is going to make it very difficult for SK to hold this off.
Silence does come out here from Qlash. They're just backing away. The Kraken's still pushing in. Remember, Prime Directive's going to get used. Tyro's in the midst. The Oblivion gets blocked out. There is the Termination Protocol looking for Merciless, but he's been locked up and disowned. On the front line, Kavalapar's so low. Merciless jumping straight into the midst of the entire team, but he can't quite get the kills. Now it's on Agony to win this 2v2. Hegman's low. Tyro's trying to do what he can. Doesn't have that passive, of course. The Infinite Reboot is down and disowned, and Agony should be able to chase out the kill onto Tyro's here. The turret goes down to Kraken. Agony chasing on towards this Alpha. Should be an easy enough secure for him in the end. Just one more Malice and Verdict gets it. Agony is ridiculous. 7-2-1 on this Samuel. Valapar up in 15 seconds. This will be at least one crystal turret, but I don't think Qlash can get the game from here.
It's gonna be close. Tyrus is down for 30 seconds still. There's a half-health Kraken, and this turret is already being worked on. This is a difficult choice for Kavalapar because Agony's gonna start trying to get damage on this turret. Here we go, Kavalapar's in.
Great fight for Walk once again. The slow does come out, looking for the Rose offensive as he chases onto Disown, but Agony's turned back towards the turret. It's fallen. The Kraken's still there as well. Good arcane passage away from Disown to keep himself alive. Agony pounding away on this Vein Crystal, not going to be able to get it, and that will be the Kraken you have to think going down as well. K able just about to hold on to their base, but Qlash are just inches away from victory in this game.
All they have to do is find one more kill onto Kavalapar. They don't really have to kill Tyros. They don't really have to kill Hegman. This open Vein Crystal is so susceptible, and Kavalapar is really the hyper carry in this situation. If we look at Alpha and the way that she's played, she's very similarly played to a Krull. There is a decent amount of burst damage, but it's not quite as sustainable as a Blackfeather who has a breaking point. So if we look at what's actually available to Tyros once Kavalapar is down, there's just not enough consistent damage onto two very mobile targets that also have a healer with them to do anything about it. So all we really have to do is see Qlash group up here. Just need to find their positioning for one fight where they're able to take somebody down, and they can push right into the Vein Crystal without any hesitation. But it's going to take that one fight. If Kavalapar is able to get to the backline, we've seen it a couple times where he's been able to get onto Mercilles and get a kill. It is going to make it very difficult at that point for the side of Qlash to come through and end the game. The Kraken is now back on the board. So if SK can get a fight here, if SK can find a kill on the Mercilles and Agony, they can take this Kraken and start to counter push very heavily. And there's a couple scout traps out where they have vision for a backdoor attempt, but they don't have a whole lot in the jungle. So it's going to be that choke point vision right there that is going to be looking for that kind of rotation.
Qlash just inches away from winning this game and going 1-0 up in this series. Of course, Space Station Gaming will be very happy with them if they can take the series as well, because I believe if SK get one more point, Space Station are out of the running for Worlds, would become officially that two-horse race. Is of course still next week for SK if they do lose today. They're not out of the running at all, not out of contention, but SK want to win. They want to secure it this week if they can. Qlash tried to deny them their spot in Singapore. Agony's the one who's engaged on him. Hegman jumps in as well. The Drifting Dark was used backwards. Here is the damage coming out from both teams. Great by Bulwark once again. The slow Kavalapar there. The Prime Directive is going to get into the midst of the entire team. The block on the Oblivion, and Agony is getting chased down here by Kavalapar. The breaking point stacks are coming big for Kavalapar at the moment. Great Prime Directive onto that backline as well. Agony, however, has got the first kill. Kavalapar's the one to fall, and now amidst the Crystal Sentry, Mercilles is keeping himself alive somehow. The Imperial Sigil keeps him up. Mercilles somehow survives, eventually taken down by Hegman. It's only Tyrus left alive, but SK running for the wins, running for the hills, running for his life, but I don't think he's going to get away from Qlash, but unwilling to give up this game. They will chase down Tyrants eventually. And Crystal Miner there trying to just help them out a little bit. Prime Directive over to the Treant, but you have to feel that Tyrants is just delaying the inevitable here. They need those ace buff minions to finish out the game, and they will get them as Tyrants falls at the end.
Ace.
Yeah, they are going to get the ace, but Kavalapar is up in 15 seconds. I don't know if the Samuel has enough damage to actually get all the way to base and push down that crystal. So instead, they are going to do what I would consider the smart play here. They are going to just go ahead and take this Kraken, because with Mercilles coming up in 10 seconds, with a Kraken push, they don't even really need to win the fight. They just need to buy time for the Kraken, and then they can make a hard push as a team and just completely avoid SK. They can run right on past with the War Treads. They have 2 sets of War Treads, so they definitely can get in. But Kvalifar can get a steal here. It would be devastating for Qlash.
Monumental if he could, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get in the midst of this team. He jumps forward. That Kraken's still not being taken yet. Rose offensive, he steals it away! Oh, Kvalifar, you absolute beauty! He went to Worlds last year and didn't perform as well as he'd like. This year, he is trying to secure that spot as soon as possible. Steals away the Kraken. Tyrus is back alive, and SK can look to push in and at least keep themselves alive in this game.
Yeah, the real problem there was that Qlash continued to work on the Kraken. They knew that Kvalifar was there, and for a time he was there alone. And they didn't just turn their attention. They had all of the activatables ready, including they have a null wave gauntlet here on Lyra. They should have just turned their attention onto Kvalifar, forced him out. They could have juggled the aggro on the Kraken to keep it from decaying. And now this is SK with a second chance. They have an exposed Vein Crystal, but they're finding gold at this point. They're finding objectives, as well as may get a half jungle rotation. Actually, it looks like it might already be cleared out by the side of Qlash. But again, SK, they were so far down in this game. They have an exposed Vein Crystal, but Kvalifar comes in with a Kraken steal, and it's able to not maybe get the most ideal turret situation. In fact, the gold advantage off of that push is going to go to the side of Qlash. But because we're this late in the game, the gold for Qlash doesn't really matter anymore, as they're trying to get Tyras online. The 900 gold going over to SK was really more valuable than the 1500 that went over to the side of Qlash, who's already basically at complete builds. That extra gold doesn't really get them anything.
What it does is get Tyras closer to that final item. Probably the broken myth, as we talked about earlier on, is a piercing shard. Kvalifar sold a tension bow to pick up a bone saw for himself, so he is complete build, selling items, buying extra ones here and there. There are 2 metal jackets and an Atlas Pauldron on the side of Qlash, so the bone saw does make a lot of sense if you can get those stacks down. Qlash still in the lead here, albeit ever so slightly. Incredibly close. No Kraken up at the moment, of course, because it's only just fallen. Qlash probably wondering exactly how they're going to break down this SK lineup. Trying to do it with a little bit of vision control. They've got the flares out, but still unable to quite catch out SK. Kvalifar the one on the aggressive here. Drifting Dark used backwards. There's the Bright Bulwark, and now Qlash might look for the aggressive play, but Masilis steps a little bit too far forward. Wait for it comes out. Silence used. The pops are going to come out as well. Here goes Masilis. Divine Intervention on towards Tyrus. Kvalifar there in the midst of the team. Masilis is so low. Kvalifar managing to survive the mortal wounds, getting rid of that healing, but it's not enough to take him down. And Masilis is the first to fall in this fight. Kvalifar almost goes down to a Malice and Verdict from Agony as well. He's got another one up now. Tyrus so low. Hegman trying to do what he can from the side, but he cannot keep his carries alive. Tyrus pops Determination Protocol, trying to get across towards the Kraken, but there's no Kraken there for him. It's up to Hegman to try and delay this. If Tyrus can somehow stay alive, perhaps they can win this fight. Kvalifar is on his way, has the Journey Boots if he wants to pop them, doesn't quite do it yet. Maybe waiting to see if SK can get out of this fight. Here he goes. Journey Boots in, looking for the re-engage onto the zone. That's straight onto Agony with the Prime Directive. Bright Bulwark comes out with the Rose Offensive. Already used the slow with the Atlas Pauldron. They're trying to get all the damage down onto Agony. It's up to Kvalifar to carry his team to victory, but Agony is dodging and dipping and ducking and diving away. Kvalifar jumps in once again with a Feint of Heart. They heal from the Divine Intervention. Agony gets underneath the turret and Imperial Sigil keeps him alive. Kvalifar dives. Can he get in enough? He gets 1 kill, but he might go down. It's all on Agony. Look at how low everyone is. Agony gets a kill, but he can't quite get Tyrus. It looks like SK will be able to get 2 members out alive, but great defense. Oh no! Tyrus backs in the wrong situation. Gets taken into the Infinite Reboot, and now Agony will drift the Dark straight onto his face. Tyrus does have the Prime Directive, does have the Core Charge. I don't think he's got many ways out. Manages to sneak away to the back to the fountain, too little, too late. And Agony secures his second kill of the fight, and Masilis is just running for the base. Masilis should win this now. That should be game for Qlash.
Qlash do the unthinkable. They take down SK here. A 28-minute game. But Agony carried the end of that game so hard, baiting Kvalifar in. He was able to come in and get a kill onto Disown, because, as we talked about it earlier, the empowered Balance and Verdicts with that AoE splash, he was able to heal up with the help, obviously, of Disowned. He was able to keep himself sustained, back to all the way up to the turret, was able to get a kill onto Kvalifar, found Tyra's recalling down underneath the Crystal Sentry there, was able to pick up another kill. With both carries down, Mercilli's just pushed right up into the lane, didn't even come down to help. So trusted in Agony and his ability. 10-3-3 on the Samuel. Magnificent plays and a great draft came out of Qlash today.
Great stuff from Qlash. They take it 1-0 up against SK. Maybe they can beat the champions of Europe. We're going to hand it back across towards Munch and the analyst to break down that game and lead us into game 2 of this series.
Disowned and Agony pulling that out of the bag. That was unreal. A 3-minute long 2v3. But Mercilli's came back in, runs to the Vein Crystal. That was just crazy.
That was absolutely insane. I mean, first of all, the fact that SK came back in this game after it looked like it was just going to be Qlash closing it out with a Kraken push. All of a sudden, SK saves that off, steals a Kraken, which was a phenomenal Kraken steal from Kvalifar, and then finds some team fights. But that last fight was absolutely ridiculous. Kvalifar recalled, healed up, and came back and rejoined a fight in the entire duration of that fight. It was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it certainly was. Let's take a look at some of the moments of that game as well. We'll start off with when Qlash were pushing with their first Kraken on in, and we saw SK managing to defend their base. We should have a replay of that one that we could bring up on your screens and take a look at this fight.
This was 18 minutes into the game. They managed to kill Vox, but at this point you have Samuel and Lyra both up, and when Black Feather goes down, there isn't enough damage for Alpha to finish off the Samuel on the Lyra. Samuel chasing Alpha, they split up also just to try and distract, go in 2 different directions so that they don't get aced, the Alpha and the Grace. They finish the kill on the Alpha, then they push in with the Kraken, but now they don't have enough damage to finish off with the Kraken. It's also only 50%, so Black Feather, once he comes back, they stop focusing the Kraken, slowly taking it down, then move on to Samuel. The healing comes out, but this is the thing that SK failed to do throughout the game, but did well in this team fight, is focus on Lyra. When you focus Lyra, it's easy to finish her off, or at least push her too far away, to then come back to the other targets and finish them without having too much sustain to deal with. It's so annoying going up against the Lyra that is constantly healing her teammates. She just keeps them alive for such a long time, as we saw toward later in the game. But SK in that one, they managed to hold the Kraken push.
Yeah, they certainly did, and especially when it's a Lyra alongside a Samuel. The sustain there is terrifying. Now, this next clip, this was a crucial moment for SK, managing to steal the Kraken.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest points of the game. An excellent steal from Kvalifar. He got in very early on and saw that the Kraken was being taken, and then had to back away and play safe and wait for it to get low enough. And by the time it did, all of a sudden, all 3 members of Qlash are there, and it looked like he was going to get forced away from it, but a beautiful Rose offensive to get himself over the members of Qlash and onto that Kraken again to solidify the steal. One of the best steals we've seen in a while.
Yeah, very smart choice also from Kvalifar to go for the steal with the Rose offensive instead of his on point, or for example his A ability. Because of the bulwark, it can block that A ability, but the Rose offensive ignores CC, so it can go through it even if Lyra tried to stop him. So very smart choices from Kvalifar. An incredible steal that kept SK a little bit longer in the game.
Yeah, it kept them alive and kept them with a chance of fighting this one on through. But Qlash did manage to take it in the end. Now, there was a lot of moments that I would love to replay for you guys in that game, but the last situation lasted like 3.5 minutes of fighting. So we've just got Mercilli's managing to end the game after Agony and Disowned had, honestly, one of the most incredible 2v3 situations we've seen in Vainglory.
Yeah, like I said, it lasted so long. You had Kvalifar able to recall back to base after the fight broke out, heal up, come back in and find a kill, and then Agony was able to get the kills that they needed to actually close out the game, while Mercilli's respawned and just marched down the lane to finish it off. An incredible way to close out this game, and this is only game 1 of the series.
And also, if you're a fan of Space Station Gaming right now, Qlash are keeping your hopes alive. Space Station is still in the race for that world spot because of this game. We need to start to talk about game number 2. This Samuel from Agony was exceptional. Is this something that SK need to prioritize on taking away at this point?
In my opinion, it could very possibly be, just because they can also play it very well. If they don't have to ban it, they can pick it. This time they're on B side, so they're going to get 2 picks before the Samuel can come through for Qlash unless they first pick it, which is very unlikely. So SK can try to pick it for themselves to deny it from Agony. He performed exceptionally well on it. And at least don't let it through with the Lyra because that's too much sustain to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And when those fights go on a long, long time, like we were seeing in that game, that sustain is always going to come out on top. What else are we expecting to see these teams focus on? Because, I mean, the SK composition was a good composition. It's not like they lost in the draft or anything like that. What can they change to come into this one to kind of mix things up a little bit here?
I think the decision on where to go with this draft, because the Alpha is incredibly strong, but just wasn't able to have much of an impact this game. And it wasn't because Tyrus was playing it poorly or anything of that nature. It was just there was so much sustain that the heavy burst damage that Alpha does was getting negated over and over again.
Apparently this damage chart from that last game is quite an interesting to take a look at. Agony, 80,000 damage. Wow. That is a phenomenal
Is that the highest
number.
we've seen recently?
I think so, yeah. That might be the highest we've seen ever, to be quite honest. I know that it's pretty far out of the ballpark, but compared to Tyrus' damage as well. I mean, we know Samuel does a lot of damage. That's a given, but that's almost triple his opponents.
Yeah, not only Samuel does a lot of damage, but against Alpha, Blackfeather, and Grace, that's a lot of sustain, a lot of durability, so they soak up a lot of damage, and that's why the numbers came through. But credit where credit is due, Samuel did perform exceptionally well, and he was surviving almost in every team fight to dish out the damage. SK were focusing onto the Vox, trying to eliminate him, but they couldn't do it fast enough, and that's why Samuel took over every single team fight. That's the problem for me for SK. You asked where they should change, in my opinion, it's like their decision making in terms of who they're focusing. Had they focused Samuel a little bit better, they might have been able to take him out before the Vox. And then other than that, focusing Lyra to remove her sustain could have been a good choice in some situations as well.
Absolutely. Well, we are getting on into this draft. It's going to be Petal banned away by Qlash, which could mean that they're looking at a cruel first pick here. But SK are going to ban the Lyra. They are done with these sustained compositions coming out from Qlash.
Yeah, not wanting to let that one go through again. And a lot of times if Lyra is off the board, Samuel ends up being off the board as well, as that's, you know, a duo that a lot of teams like to try and pick up together. And if they don't get one, they usually don't really take the other. But Qlash, they're going to go ahead and grab this Rhyme for themselves. Another one of these heroes that has a lot of durability in these team fights. But again, without having the Lyra there, SK feels like they're not going to have enough sustain to be able to survive them. And SK, they can still go for this Blackfeather, but instead they want the Krull for Tyrus. And this is one of his top 3 most played heroes.
This is the second draft in a row where Qlash are prioritizing on the jungle picks for Agony. In my opinion, that's very smart. Agony's been always the standout player who can carry the team and can make things happen. So prioritizing on his comfort picks that are also strong in 2.9 is very smart for Qlash.
SK now deciding where they want to go with this ban. There's still obviously captains and carries on the table for both of these teams, and you could maybe try and focus on Massilis here. We've talked about in the past how Massilis, he's got a very good box and historically had a good Gwen as well, but his hero pool isn't the widest in the world.
No, not really the widest. The Vox does come as a ban, and you know, Tasty talked about it quite a bit last draft. It's one of his top picks.
Yeah, it's Marsili's most played hero by far, so the fact that they are taking that off the board I think is a very smart decision from SK Gaming, just forcing Marsili's, even though, again, he has other heroes that he can play, but none of them really seem to be quite as strong as his Vox play, because his Vox play is exceptional, so just getting him off of that most comfortable pick. Is the Kestrel is still available, which may not be when it comes back around. We'll see where SK decide to go, but Blackfeather is still a potential option. It's not as likely when you already have the Krull on your side, but it could still be something that SK is considering.
I would really hope to not see the Blackfeather, because if they go for the Blackfeather, Qlash could go for the Rona, and that's Rona Rhyme against triple melee. That would be devastating to go up against. So I hope they don't go for the Blackfeather. I do expect SK to not go for Grace this time around. Something like a Catherine or a Lance would probably play better for them, and I think they will try to get that instead, because Grace didn't work out for them last game.
We'll see what direction they want to go with that captain pickup. They've only got 12 seconds left on the clock to make that decision, and Grace is going to be the lock-in here for SK.
Nope. They want to try it again, and I mean, it didn't really do that much in my opinion. The sustain was coming through, but it just was not enough to win them the game. So they decide to go for it again. They say it's not the problem, it was more about how we played it.
And it'll be interesting, because obviously this is then them also saying that they want to go a little bit later in the game, because Grace doesn't have, does have impact, but really comes online and really starts to shine once the Echo is completed and in the inventory. So those double heals are the key for Grace. We've seen other teams run the Grace, and once the Echo comes through, all of a sudden that's when they have this massive power spike. But the Kestrel is the option for Qlash. I like Kestrel into the Krull. I like Kestrel into the Grace as well. You can set up some really strong stuns with the active camos, but Baron will be the option for SK Gaming. This is something that Kvalifar doesn't really play that frequently, and so it'll be interesting to see how he's going to be able to perform, especially into a Rhyme and Catherine, because they are both so durable. And if you double shot a Catherine while she has her Storm Guard up, you are going to be damaging your own team by a hefty amount.
Yeah, not only does Kvalifar not play Baron often, he is a good player on Baron. Obviously, he's a good player in general, so he can perform on whatever. The problem here is that they have a very late game scaling composition with the Baron and the Grace. They're going to become very strong, but they need to get there first, and the Kestrel and Rhyme can put a lot of pressure early game and mid game and can shut down the Baron and the Grace before they get to their strong point. So Qlash coming into the second game with a stronger draft, in my opinion, and they could very possibly take the series here.
All right, the onus is on Qlash in this series to finish this out with a 2-0. They've got to be proactive. They've got to be getting in the grills of SK. Let us know who you want to take this on Twitter. Hashtag Vainglory8. Get involved in the conversation. It's time to head into game 2 of this semi-final. Qlash could pull out an upset. Let's find out if it's going to happen.
And what an upset it would be. I'm Medic, I'm joined by Denominate today, and we are bringing you the second game between Qlash and SK. And you can hear almost the anticipation from G2 and from Space Station Gaming when saying, come on, Qlash. You can hear the cheers ringing out from those gaming houses saying, come on, Qlash, we want you to win. We want to be able to actually continue in our quest for that spot in Worlds for Europe. But SK might play upsetters here. They might play a pivotal role in stopping anyone else getting a spot from Europe. I think Denominate still has his microphone muted and hasn't realized it. Hegman's taking a little bit of damage here. The Treant there. Masili's coming in from the side. Hegman secures it and uses his boots to run away with the healing flask as well. Gets himself away to safety.
I'm sorry for leaving you hanging there, Medic. I was coughing, so I did have to mute myself.
Oh, that's all right then. That's fine then, mate. It's better to know that you didn't cough on stream.
Anyway, so we've got some interesting drafts set up here. Baron is something we've really seen fallen off the meta for quite some time, and into the Kestrel, it can make a lot of sense. So obviously Kestrel, one of those heroes that is going to go with 4 offensive items. Now, what's going to be interesting to me is the defensive item that Mercedes chooses to go this time around. So there is going to be a double weapon power carry composition here, right? We have the Baron, we have the Krull. They both have their weapon power started already. I can't imagine that we're going to see a CP Baron competitively. So, you know, I gotta feel like it's double weapon. But there is a reasonable amount of crowd control that comes out of the side of SK. So we have the From Hell's Heart obviously coming out of Krull, and we have the Holy Nova coming out of Hegman. So is Mercedes going to commit into armor for his 1 defensive slot item? Or are we thinking he's going to go for that reflex block to potentially block up the From Hell's Heart? That's kind of the difficult thing to make of here. But now it's Tyra's coming in.
Yeah, already jumping onto Agony. There's the Holy Nova knockup. Always difficult to trade melee into a Rhyme, of course, but Tyra's doing a good job looking for that Spectral Smite. Has the stacks up if he can get the final bit of damage down onto Agony. Not quite enough. And Tyra's won't be able to secure that kill, but they can chase Agony and Disowned out of the jungle. Backs are there if they wanted to take it. Hegman goes in for the kill, gets stunned up straight away, gets a 1-for-1 trade, but First Blood does go down. Looks like that did go to Hegman. Agony able to answer with a kill of his own.
Hegman able to get the First Blood. He did give up his life, but he gets that bounty gold as well for that First Blood. So he does take the better trade there, which results a little bit in favor of SK. But right now the gold is even as Rhyme is clearing out his jungle. But Tyra's sneaky little devil here takes away the middle Treant. And now with Hegman rotating down, they might look for another fight here. Tyra's is level 4 and has the healing from that Treant and should be able to smite this one.
Doesn't quite get it because it was stunned up with the Merciless Pursuit. Great play by Qlash to secure it. Agony, the one to take the Elder Treant. Disowned, very on point with that A ability. The Merciless Pursuit continually landing stuns when he needs to.
Yeah, it's a useful tool into these heroes that are melee that need to come in. Hegman, can obviously root up stun up the Catherine and the Rhyme when they're trying to get to the back line. And then looking over at Disowned, he can obviously stun up Tyra's if he's trying to dive onto Mercilli's. So we're going to have to look for those crowd control abilities to be used timely in the fights to favor Kvalifar and Mercilli's to be able to get their damage down. Now, back when Baron was popular, the one real big pick that everybody liked into him was that Idris. But the Kestrel was very useful as well. If you can use that active camo and get around to the edge of a fight and hit a Baron with a couple glimmer shots, you're going to be able to trade out damage with him very easily. But Tyraz is looking for damage on a Disowned here.
Not quite able to get the kill with that Spectral Smite, but Disowned very low. Agony's coming in to try and protect his laner and his roam, and SK definitely on the front foot early on here, but Qlash still even in gold, still able to contain the SK threat for the time being.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an important matchup. Now, PlayStation Gaming, they can, if they win this week and next week, they can tie where SK is right now. But even if SK loses this matchup, they will play in the third place decider match and can pick up a point there as well. So Space Station Gaming, you have to imagine, is watching these games incredibly closely, hoping that Qlash is able to pull things together here. And obviously G2, they are the closest team to catching up to SK, sitting only 4 points behind right now, 32-28 after the points tallied up from yesterday. So G2 definitely looking forward to this matchup as well. And off the back of that first game, SK was able to find opportunities where they were able to come in and steal the Kraken. They were able to push down a couple turrets. But for the most of that game, after the 15-minute mark, it really started to look convincingly in Qlash's favor. The beginning was very gridlock, dead even. Here's the From Hell's Heart, not going to lock up anybody.
Yeah, it felt like a bad From Hell's Heart, in all honesty. Kvalifar jumped in, then the From Hell's Heart came out, but Disowned has overstepped now. The Spectral Smite can be used, but it's not enough HP to take down Disowned. The auto almost gets him. He does still have the fountain if a dive does occur. Agony getting chased out here, has got the level 6, has that Valkyrie, but needs to run away from Tyraz, who once again has that Spectral Smite up. Won't be able to get too much more out of that. Just feels a bit miscoordinated from SK in that engage, and even in game 1 when they were able to win those later game teamfights, they weren't able to actually challenge Qlash. What we've always known from SK is their resiliency, their abilities come back from any game. I actually missed that. I was looking at the jungle matchup. Good kill onto Mercilli's there as Kvalifar and Hegman secured themselves the first kill in that lane. Also, Agony's chasing onto Tyraz. Spectral Smite heals up Tyraz, but it's not enough. Hegman looking for the Holy Nova knockup, but cannot trade into Agony. Ends up being a 1-for-1, with the jungle being traded out for that laner.
And this is kind of a similar start to what we had last game. We are dead even on gold 7 minutes into the game, and the trades have been very back and forth, similar to how game 1 was. And it's going to be interesting to see which team is able to pull ahead. We obviously know Baron used to be the biggest damage threat on the Halcyon Fold. He did receive about a 10% nerf to his damage, so still very viable, can be a very bursty hero, but maybe not quite what he used to be. So I can see where Kvalifar could be that hyper carry in the late game, especially with the lockup that Tyraz and Hegman are going to be able to provide. They can keep Agony off of Kvalifar. Kvalifar can start raining in those rockets and get some splash damage down. He does have to be careful, though. Oh, here we go.
Going in for that engagement. Mercillis is the target. Doesn't quite get out as he's taken down by Kvalifar. Mercillis is very much struggling in this lane now, and SK with a man advantage can look for the push here if they want. They're going to jump onto Agony. Hegman again goes in there, but Agony able just to sustain up a little bit in the lane and keep that minion wave away from the turret.
Yeah, and I do want to make note of what Kvalifar did in that last fight. So we obviously saw the From Hell's Heart come out from the Krull. obviously, when a Kestrel is in that situation, she's going to drop the active camo to try to get rid of vision so that she can't get bursted down. But before Kvalifar jumped in, he did drop one of those porcupine mortars right on where Kestrel got locked up, which caused her to get revealed, and that's really the reason they were able to get that kill there. And now, with Kvalifar completing this tension bow, he's going to be able to pierce through some of the armor, which Mercilli's, Agony, and Disowned all have started purchasing, but he doesn't have that crit yet, so that's going to be something to make note of as well. I would expect Tyra's, he has the breaking point complete. I would think the next item is going to be that Bone Saw, just to try to help get the armor down so that Kvalifar can have that high-end burst. Probably going to go
Look at that crit that went to Kvalifar. 400 HP just gone. Divine Intervention is used. The one-shot, one-kill does not connect onto either Hegman or Kvalifar, and Qlash hold on to the lane for the time being. Tyrus has the from Hell's Heart if they want to look for the re-engage, just trying to get some damage down onto Agony with those weakness stacks as well. Kvalifar, crit, boom, not quite down. There's the Ion Cannon. There's the kill, and Kvalifar does a huge amount of work in that fight. Tyrus as well from the side, stunning up that Kestrel, and now SK can look to push forward. Another double shot after that jump jets from Kvalifar, who no longer has a cooldown, no longer has a cast time, on that jump jets as he's hit 200 weapon power. So effective. Look at that, jump straight away. Holy Nova from Hegman. His grace has been on point this game. SK looking much more like their former selves.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's the burst that this Baron provides that makes it so difficult. If Mercilli's gets locked up for any amount of time, Baron's going to be able to come in and clean things out very easily. And he's likely going to go into the Tyrant's Monocle and Tornado Trigger for his next two items. Probably sell off that Book of Eulogies here the next time he hits up the shop. And that's going to give him that burst that we know Baron to have. And when you use those jump jets to come in and you get that double attack, it can be so devastating to a squishy target like Mercilli's health bar. And those are the kind of things that we have to look out for here, and that SK has to capitalize on. They can, if they take Mercilli's down first, they can easily kill Agony. So if they're focusing on Agony, it's going to allow Mercilli's too much time to play around in the fight and get the damage down. So SK playing it very well right now in this early and mid game.
Exactly what we wanted to see from them, and what G2 and Space Station Gaming didn't want to see. Breaking point finished on towards Tyrus. Hegman has the Crucible alongside that Fountain as well, so starting to hit these big item spikes. Disowned slightly behind, but has been stacking up those Captain of the Guard stacks, that heroic perk. Quite a lot of work, 18 stacks already at the 11-minute mark. Mercillis takes a couple of crits to the back, and he's going to be forced away from this side. Pretty effective by Kvalifar, who just jumps back in. The threat of Baron is so huge when it comes to these situations. Kvalifar looking for the turret, pops the Ion Cannon down to try and force them back. Can't quite get the turret yet, but just one more auto will be enough. Agony takes a crit. That's the turret going down. Now Kvalifar needs to be careful because he has jumped in. There's the Valkyrie looking for the stun. The silence comes out a good route from Agony, but onto the back line goes Iwas. He's chasing onto Mercillis, and Kvalifar's jumping around the fight. Gets the kill. Kvalifar still somehow alive. Agony will eventually take him down, and now Qlash in the midst of two members needs to try and get away because Disowned is the only one left alive. And SK set up for a 2-for-1 trade alongside that turret, and perhaps a gold mine to top it off.
Agony played that last fight so well. Unfortunately, Mercilli's was the one getting chased down. And again, if Mercilli's is the first one that gets dropped, it does make it very difficult for Agony to come through against a Baron and a Kroll, who shuts down a lot of his damage potential. And I'm a little in question of the build, so the rhymes that we see be really successful are usually going with the Shatterglass first item. Now, I understand the argument for Eve of Harvest, that you can heal yourself up while gaining fortified health. It is a very effective combination, but the amount of fortified health that you get when going with that Shatterglass first does help you actually not need the healing, because you're building up so much fortified health, as well as you're putting out more damage. You've become a bigger threat. And that's just not what we've seen out of this rhyme. He's finding good damage. He's not finding enough of it, especially since Mercillis is forced out of the fight so early on every time.
Catches onto Mercillis are absolutely devastating, and the fact that he has only got that single armor item thus far, only sitting on the light armor, not got a coat of plates yet, is really costing him. Active camo used by Mercillis, that's going to back up in about 4 seconds or so, but if Kvalifar gets a couple of auto attacks off, that's all it takes. All it takes is one crit, 2 crits, and Mercillis is forced out of the fight once again. almost on command. Kvalifar finding the catches that he needs. From Hell's Heart is available for Tyrus. Kvalifar jumps forward, pops the boots as well, looking for the chase, goes helicopter. Trying to get in that chopper, but cannot quite connect onto the Kestrel. Once again jumps forward, and even through the stealth gets those autos out. Divine Intervention used onto Kvalifar to heal him back up, and SK now have the siege that they want. Minions pushing in as well. Merciless gets the Treant to try and heal himself up, but it's going to be pretty dangerous. Actually, they went over to Agony, so Merciless didn't even get the healing that perhaps he wanted. One shot, one kill, doesn't hit. SK still pushing forward. They are not happy with the fact they lost game 1. They want to show why they deserve that spot in the World Championships. Tyrus with the flank from Hell's Heart straight onto the back line. The Crucible comes down too little, too late. Say SK as they engage. Agony trying to do what he can, but even with the Valkyrie, even with the heals, he cannot survive through this fight. Disowned looks to be the first to fall as SK continue on the aggressive. He will get out. SK might just turn their eyes towards the turret instead. Good route with the chill wind. Agony not done yet. He's catching up onto Kvalifar. Holding over with the stun, and SK perhaps stepped a little bit too far because Agony's not done with this fight. He wants to get onto Kvalifar. Great Winter Spire gets the kill, and now Tyrus trying to turn it around with the weakness stacks, but he doesn't have that much damage on this Cruel, and Agony has a lot of damage as those Dragon's Eye stacks are building up. Gonna be SK running for the wins. Agony is low on energy. Tyrus can just dodge around with that Dead Man's Rush, gets himself back towards the Treant, but Agony says, oh no you don't, I want a piece of this action. The Treant does go down and gone over to Tyrus, and with the Crystal Sentry coming in, perhaps Qlash will finally disengage this fight.
Yeah, it was really good of Agony to be able to come in and find a kill onto Kvalifar, who realistically was playing, I would say, a bit too close to the Krull, who does have his boots upgraded to the tier 2, and we will likely see him go into Journey boots when he finishes those boots off. It's so useful for the Rhyme because he doesn't have any gap closers in his kit, so to have a boots active that you can refresh by damaging an enemy, lowering the cooldown from 60 seconds to 12 seconds, it allows Krull to get to that backline more frequently, and they're able to get damage onto Kvalifar. Again, Merciless has been forced out early in every single one of these fights. He does have a Metal Jacket now. He has the Sorrow Blade Double Monocle and a Infusion, but he still just takes so much damage when Kvalifar is allowed to get onto him, especially with the health pool of Kestrel being so low. Here we go, good Holy Nova.
Good blast tremor as well, does get the silence off. Kvalifar is low in that backline, and Merciless has been able to survive this. The Iron Cannon doesn't quite connect onto most members of Qlash. Kvalifar jumps in, great Crucible to block out the From Hell's Heart, but Tyrus still not done yet. One shot, one kill. Fountain used by Qlash. They turn back towards Hegman, takes a chunk. Qlash unable to find the kill at the end of it all. Agony going in. Pops the Winter Spire onto Tyrus. There's the route. The chill wins. Tyrus trying to dodge around, but he does just go down. And now Kvalifar, it's all up to him. We've seen Tyrus make the big plays. Now it's on Kvalifar. Qlash able to come out on top of that fight, but it's so close between these two teams. I don't think Qlash are done yet. Priscilla is going to step forward straight into the face of Hegman. Disowned there as well. All they needed was a stun on towards Kvalifar, but they weren't quite able to find it. Kvalifar will be looking for those crits. Merciless still chasing onto Hegman. Goes through a scout trap. There's a Crystal Sentry there. They don't want to push any further forward. Merciless does steal away that Treant. And now Qlash will just back away. Let's quickly look at where the items stand for these two teams. Agony, Dragon's Eye, Eve, a Piercing Shard, and that Coat of Plates. Disowned has an Atlas and War Treads finish now as well. And Merciless has that double crit. The Tyrant's Monocles have been completed alongside the Sorrow Blade and the Metal Jacket.
Yeah, this whole series has already been back and forth fights, specifically getting into this game as well. Merciless is now working into his 4th offensive item, and this is smart in terms of blowing up that front line when they're trying to dive in. It should offer him a little bit more protection, actually, to have more damage, because if he's able to force Tyrus out of the fight, it does make it very difficult for Kvalifar to engage without Tyrus and Hegman getting in there to get the lockdown potential that they have. Disowned has the War Treads finished, and this should be an interesting one. Here we go.
In for the fight, Merciless somehow alive at the back of this. The Fountain has been used. Hegman jumps onto Merciless, doesn't get the Holy Nova, and now Tyrus is going to step into that active camo. Stunned up straight away. The Fountain comes out. Kvalifar, 1-for-1 trade, but Kvalifar is now in the midst of all of Qlash. He jumps away with the jump, gets the Iron Cannon, comes down as well, and Agony's gone the wrong way with this. Didn't realize that Kvalifar had gone back up to his Mustache Bush. That being a 1-for-1. Laner for Jungler once again. These fights are just neither team wanting to give an inch at all. Qlash can sense they are just one team fight win away from perhaps being able to topple the giants that are SK.
They're definitely looking to do so. Finding a kill onto Tyra's, while might not be the most ideal kill to get, they are at least able to pick one up for one of their own, so they at least even things out. Obviously, if they're able to get a kill onto Kvalifar, who has gone with a second monocle now for his 4th offensive item, if they're able to get him down in a fight, it's going to be Qlash able to push very easily against the Kroll and the Grace. We just haven't been able to see that. Mercilli's has not been able to find any damage on that backline, and Hegman and Tyra's obviously making short work of this Kestrel and soaking up all that damage, locking him down, allowing Kvalifar to jump in and get the burst damage out. And that's what brings Mercilli's down so low. I mean, even with the metal jacket, that double shot coming out of Baron, just it brings Mercilli's down to half alone.
From Hell's Heart, from Tyra's, great positioning by him. The active camera used by Mercilli's. There's the Ion Cannon as well as Qlash have to try and get away from this. The Kraken has been started as well, and that's actually hitting onto Hegman, helping out Qlash for the time being. Kvalifar's quite low. 1 shot, 1 kill is not going to connect. Kvalifar jumps away. Tyra's still looking for the flank here. Disowned in that front line. Porcupine Mortars raining down hell from above. Agony, once again, his positioning, his play has been so on point this series. He is the carry that Qlash have needed throughout these 2 games. It continues to be so in these fights. Oh, Kvalfar's gone! And Hegman will be short to follow as well. Mercilli's goes from 1-6-3 to the game-winning play, perhaps, for Qlash. Gets a double for himself and gets them the Kraken as well.
Yeah, getting this Kraken taken down is huge for them because it's going to top off their health and energy. And then as they make the push, if Mercilli's is able to get any time on the turret, they're going to be able to save a lot of health on this Kraken, as well as it's very difficult for Kvalifar to jump into a fight for where Mercilli's is going to be positioned against this Kraken. He could potentially be jumping right into an active camo. Obviously, we'd have the stun and the root coming out of Catherine and Rhyme as well. And the fights that SK have been able to win, it's because Tyra's has had such amazing accuracy with the From Hell's Heart. We've seen him several times weave it directly between Agony and Disowned, and they're able to get a kill onto Mercilli's. And now it's Qlash looking to rotate here. You're still From Hell's Heart.
Straight onto Mercilli's. He doesn't get out of the back of the fight. The Kraken's still alive, but now Disowned and Agony need to get away from this. Agony trying to re-engage onto Kvalifar. Perhaps not the smartest idea at this time. The Valkyrie comes out the weak. The stack's building up as well, and Agony is dead. 2 kills to SK, but the Kraken does manage to break that closed off turret point and should be taken down before it takes down another turret, believe. That is a okay position, you have to say, for Qlash. Not exactly what they wanted, of course. Could have been a better fight for them. But getting rid of that choke point turret is so impactful when it comes into the later portion of the game.
Absolutely is. And again, when Tyra's is able to find From Hell's Heart onto Mercilli's, they're able to get the kill they need and go from there. And we saw it in that last fight. From Hell's Heart came out. Kvalifar immediately lined up the Ion Cannon, jumped in with the jump jets, got the burst down on the Mercilli's. They were able to get the kill, and from there it was very easy for them to continue the damage. And Disowned did make it out, but without Agony or Mercilli's alive, they weren't able to get the full potential out of that Kraken push. They at least get the choke point turret, which is the most difficult one to take, most would say. But they very likely could have got 1 or 2 more turrets if Mercilli's would have been able to make it out of that fight alive.
And we talked a lot about Mercilli's build here, you know, going for the quad weapon power item, the quad aggressive item. Kvalifar's got 5. It's a penta weapon power item now, sitting at 370 weapon power, not even counting the passives and the crit damage that he's getting out of those Tyrant's monocles and the tension bow and the breaking point stacks. He can do so much work in these fights if he is allowed to. Look at that, even on Disowned, who has an Atlas, he is shredding through the health bar with just a couple of auto attacks. So if Kvalifar is able to stay alive in these fights, he can absolutely ruin Qlash's chances of taking the 2-0. But at the 23-minute mark, there is 100 gold in this game. SK and Qlash, so little between the two of them. Something that you would not have thought that I could say just a couple of weeks ago. You have to remember, Qlash are in the challenge zone. SK are top of the table. This is a top v bottom competition, and Qlash are showing just why their bite is as bad as their bark at the moment. Tyra's going for the engage. Does. have Disowned use that Merciless Pursuit. All ultimates available here as well. Disowned with the Blast Tremor has the Null Wave Gauntlet as well for that double silence. One shot, one kill does not connect. Tyra's hiding in that bush, but a player spots him out on Agony and Merciless to make this fight. Good block from Kvalifar. Hegman jumps in as well. The Roams just teasing out these fights, testing the water, seeing if they can find the opportune moment to engage. Kvalifar is a little bit low here. Disowned runs forward once again, looking for the stun. Only lands it onto Hegman. Blast Tremor blocked out there. There's the root as well. Tyra's trying to get on towards Merciless. The weakness stacks are building up. There's the Iron Cannon as Kvalifar re-jumps back into the fight. The Valkyrie doesn't connect, and now Qlash are getting scattered to the winds. Disowned going to try and stun up Kvalifar. Agony in a 1v1 versus Tyrus has those weakness stacks built up on him. Kvalifar gets the double. Agony's going to have to try and retreat back towards his base, but it's a long walk to freedom for him. There's the knockup with the Holy Nova. Tyra's in the midst of it. Kvalifar there, the Crystal Sentry helping him out a little bit, but Agony still getting chased down. Kvalifar's going to dodge towards the other side, taking a lot of damage from that Crystal Sentry. There's the jump away with the jump jets, and Agony eventually falls. The 8th breath. And a great team fight from them late on in this game.
Yeah, and they should be looking to turn on to the Kraken at this point. That was such a great fight for SK. Again, Tyra's able to lock down Merciless is what allows Kvalifar to come in and get the damage down. And with the build that Tyra's has gone, he does have that kind of brunt force, a health bar that allows him to take in those glitter shots. And obviously, building up those weakness stacks will reduce Merciless' damage anywhere from 5 to 50%, depending on how many stacks you get on there. So it helps him survive that way as well. Now, Merciless obviously has gone with the Metal Jacket because it's a double weapon power composition. So to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have a block, he's decided to go with the War Treads for some additional health on his boots. But again, he does not have a block, and Tyra's is consistently landing from Hell's Heart onto that Kestrel, locking him up, building up weakness stacks, and allowing Kvalifar to just delete Merciless.
Back and pushing into this choke point turret. There's the Iron Cannon as well. SK might want a little bit more from this Kraken push. Disowned there in the front line, doing what he can, and Kraken's going to fall really before he even gets to this first crystal turret. Stun onto Tyrus to lock him up. He's got the From Hell's Heart to try and turn this one around if he wants. Disowned with that Storm Guard makes it so difficult for Kvalifar to push forward, of course. Qlash still able to hold on to this game. It's not over yet, guys. Qlash so close to those finals. They can taste that matchup later on, but they still have to get through this final defense of SK. We're putting up a monumental, a gargantuan task. Game 2 of this best of 3.
Yeah, and we got to remember, SK is a team that has, for the most part, looked the most consistent in all of Europe over the past couple of weeks. And I'm not feeling like that's the case today. I feel like they're making a good attempt at it, this second matchup here, but they're still making a lot of positional mistakes. Tyra's again on a Merciless, though.
Yeah, Tyra's positioned so well there. Merciless is dead. Agony's trying to chase on Kvalifar. They can kill them. They even out at a 1-for-1, but the Divine Intervention, the Valkyrie stuns up all 3 members, and Agony once again comes up huge for Qlash, but he's got those weakness stacks built up on him. It's onto Disowned. They need to try and get Agony out of this fight. He's going to use the Journey Boots. He picked him up from the shop in the midst of the fight, and now Tyrus is able to get there with the Dead Man's Rush. Disowned needs to come in from the side, but Tyrus hops the back, trying to get that up onto him, using the heroic perk effectively, and Agony is gonna fall here. SK get 2 kills, but Agony may have just held on to the game for his team by taking out Kvalifar.
And Tyra's has done I can't stress it enough how heavily Tyra's is really carrying in this game right now. Every single fight that we find, Tyra's is positioning himself in a beautiful position where he can land from Hell's Heart onto Merciless and just essentially take him out of the fight. Once Merciless is down, it's very easy for them to start turning on to Agony, despite how tanky this Rhyme is. Kvalifar does drop at the end of that, but it's SK in a great position if they continue the fights the way they are to win this game. Now, if Qlash can get the vision of Tyra's before they make an engagement and protect Merciless from Tyra's getting onto that back line, they stand a much better chance at pulling off a upset here. But they just haven't been able to do so. They see Kvalifar and they blindly dive in, trying to get him down. And then here comes Tyra's from the backside. Kraken is started up. Can we get a steal here, though?
Iron Cannon's been used by Cavalifar. The secure does come out. There's the Valkyrie, doesn't connect. Marcellus down low, but he is now able to push forward because they know where Tyrus is. Cavalifar chased off towards the back. Agony down to half. He needs to get out of this one. There's the bounce into from Hell's Heart used by Tyrus, and Agony might be the first full good stun though onto Tyrus. Doesn't manage to take him out. It's on to Marcellus, having to try and run away from this. Cavalifar's going to use the jump jets forwards. You have to feel. Gets it out. The active camo comes down though. Great double stun. Cavalifar is dead. Marcellus turns it around for his team. Hegman tries to jump in with a Holy Nova, but cannot get out. It's a double for Marcellus, and Disown chased off Tyrus for the entirety of that fight. It's going to end up being a 2-for-2 trade, but somehow Marcellus was able to turn that one around and can look towards taking out that Kraken as well. Great stuff from Disowned to separate the jungler of SK from the rest of his team and help Marcellus actually turn the fight around in favor of Qlash.
Yeah, Tyrus on the chase onto Disowned now. He should be able to get that kill. It's definitely Disowned wasting a lot of Tyrus' time.
He's got Crucible and Atlas. Gonna step on a scout trap here. Has the null wave. Spectral Smite. Oh, Stormguard to try and stop it, and there he goes again with a merciless pursuit from Hell's Heart. Stone didn't. Oh, he did have Crucible, but just wasn't quite able to use it, of course. And there's the kill. Tyrus takes it out, but look at that. Only one crystal turret went down with the Kraken push. That is big. There's 51 seconds though on Disowned. Not the best of times because Hegman's back up into an SK can try and force a fight. This contraption on Hegman has done such a good job gaining vision control for them because Disowned being able to pick up those flares, of course, makes it that you can't take these prolonged engages without getting to a shop and getting more flares, restocking yourself. Whereas Hegman can just use the contraption and have flares to boot.
Absolutely, and now Disowned, while wasting Tyra's time, I do want to make note that he has staggered his death timer substantially. I mean, he's still down for another 20 seconds now, and that fight ended a minute and a half ago. So it's kind of a rough spot to be in because now we look at SK, they're just able to push up because there's no captain here. And with Baron, starting to get into the base here, he's going to have to back off because they don't have any minions. But they can really look to be aggressive if they continue with what's been going on. And the reason Marcellus in that last fight was able to turn things around was Tyrus was not on Marcellus. It was Disowned getting chased down by the Krull, and Marcellus was able to turn things around onto Cavalifar, and then obviously was able to drop Hegman as well. And, oh man, that's the damage that Bacon was talking about on the desk earlier. If Disowned can use the reflex properly onto that Baron, that was 722 damage reflected back to Cavalifar as he's overdriven the Stormguard that does, I believe it's an additional 25% damage return.
Disowned isn't in a good spot here though because he's chasing right on in. Tyrus has the flank. Agony pushes forward as well, but look at the base. Look at Marcellus. He's got the turrets. He's on the crystal turrets.
Yeah, that's all they're trying to do here. And they might have Cavalifar too.
Yeah, they're trying to kill Cavalifar. Meanwhile, in the base, that's where I'm looking at the moment. Marcellus is going to get taken out. Cavalifar on the chase as he runs away from Agony. Jump jets forward towards Disowned, but the Divine Intervention heals him up just a little bit. Disowned having to try and get out of this one. Pops a Stormguard. Agony turns it back around, but Cavalifar with the jump jets gets stunned up. It's up to Agony. The chill wins the route. They get the kill. Tyrus is on his way. Agony needs to get out because both of his teammates are dead, and Tyrus is on the hunt. He is prey, and he is the predator in the jungle. He's the Krull. Hegman trying to get the knock-up. There's the Holy Nova, and this should be Tyrus falling. Agony trying to get away with those Journey boots, but I don't think he's going to get away from the Spectral Smite. Manages to lose the weakness stacks, but they will build up once again from Tyrus. Agony just trying to delay this as much as possible. Still 23 seconds on Marcellus, but SK get the ace and can turn towards the Kraken if they want. It looks like they are going to start that one up instead of going for the base to try and secure this win and take it to the third game of this best of 3.
The unfortunate situation for Qlash was it was a great play to try to get Marcellus to push in the base because he has so much damage. He can burst down those turrets safely, but they had to prevent the recalls out of both Tyrus and Cavalifar, not just Cavalifar. Tyrus was able to recall the base, and he was able to get the kill onto Marcellus before he could get that second turret. He did get one down, and he got half of the other turret, but, it's now a Kraken marching towards the lone turret left for the side of Qlash as well, and with the way the fights have been going, I think this one is just getting ready to go over to SK.
You never know, though. You never know. All it takes is a pick. All it takes is a catch, because Agony is going to be back up. Disowned, if he pops a good Stormguard, you can see Marcellus is sneaking here. All he wants to do is catch Cavalifar. He pops the active camo. Oh, all he wants to do is take the base! Marcellus! going for the base. We see Tyrus is backing here, perhaps realizing that this might happen. The stun does come out, and Agony is going to go back towards base. Merciless is going to do the same. Active cameras into the bush to flare. I'm not sure if that caught him. Now they know where Merciless is. Tries to get away, but the From Hell's Heart is going to connect Tyrus with the chase here. Merciless has no place to go. Active cameras right at the last moment. Tyrus pops the reflex, and Merciless is dead. That, you have to feel, will be the game, because that Kraken is still very healthy on these crystal turrets. The Cavalifar just waiting in the wings. Can push up in just a second. Has the ion cannon actually already used. The Porcupine Mortar comes out as well. That Kraken will take that first crystal turret, and SK can try and take a 2v3 for the win here. Agony on the Kraken won't even be able to take that down by himself. They realize it. SK are going to take the win. It's going to be 1-1 in this best of 3, and we're going all the way between SK and Qlash.
And I can feel the tears from Space Station Gaming as they watch in horror the SK able to get that last point they needed to eliminate Space Station Gaming. And now going into game number 3, I think Qlash has to respect the flexible hero pool that Cavalifar does have to his name. So that's all I've really got to say about this one in a 34-minute game. It's SK with the 5-item Baron able to close it out.
I'm going to hand it back across towards our analysts. And what a series this has been thus far.
What are we witnessing here in the European Vainglory 8? SK managed to push this series to the full 3 games, but oh my good, like double backdoors coming on through. There was like 6 Krakens, I think, that game. That was a ridiculous match.
Absolute insanity on the Halcyon Fold this game. It was unbelievable. Like, I don't even know where to begin with trying to break this one down, because there were so many things that happened and so many little tiny slip-ups or small little missteps that could have changed the course of this game.
And honestly, so many mistakes back and forth between these two teams. If the game does go on for 40 minutes, yes, people are making plays, but people are making mistakes. There were so many Kraken pushes that could have ended the game, but ended up not doing that. Regardless, let's get into breaking it much
Yeah,
else.
I mean, let's get into our replays, because there are a few of them, as you can imagine, from that game. First one around 11 minutes into the game. This is SK. They actually got off to a great start in this one.
Yeah, it felt like early on that SK were going to be able to just snowball this, because a Baron got an early lead. They take down a couple of kills and get this early turret as well. Just 11 minutes in, first turret down, and then they find a fight immediately after, and you think, oh, okay, Baron, he's already online very early in this game. It should have just been SK being able to close it out.
Yeah, it certainly should have been, but it was never that simple in this matchup. So many... I mean, we have an unlimited supply of replays from that game in the back. We can only show a few of them. This next one, I mean, the next few of them are all double kills that came on through during these games. We should be able to play the next replay for you guys and try and break down some of these fights, because as you were saying before, Zoro, a lot of these fights were based on mistakes being capitalized upon.
Indeed, mistakes being capitalized on. This was when SK got a Kraken and managed to kite away. And at this point, once the Baron doesn't have anyone focused on him, it's really hard to take him down. The fact that SK got an early game lead meant that the Baron could be accelerated. We can see that he takes down the Rhyme. But here, he jumps in, and something that changed about Baron is that he no longer has immunity to CC after his jump is completed. It used to be different before, so when he landed on top of the active camo trap, he could not block it. So they ended up dying to Kestrel with a 1v2 play coming out from Merciless.
It was an unreal moment, that game, because that would have been the end of the game for SK if he hadn't pulled out that play. Merciless stepping up on this Kestrel. He tried to make a play to end the game as well. He tried to get that backdoor. It was not meant to be. The backs weren't stopped, and this is the actual end of the game where we see SK pushing with Kraken.
Yeah, and this was just devastating, because you see, again, Merciless going for this backdoor play. There's no vision, but Tyrus senses it, starts recalling so close to canceling that recall, just a half second longer, and he stops that recall of Tyrus, and then who knows, Merciless might have been actually able to end this game.
He definitely would have been able to finish it.
Because of the recall not getting stopped, all of a sudden Merciless has to now back off. The rest of the team, they know where he is. They can search him out and find him, and from there, you're 33 minutes in. The death timers are a minute long, and there's no way SK were not going to win this at that point.
This has been an unbelievable series already, and we still have another game to go. Unfortunately, for Space Station Gaming fans out there, that is the end of the run. SK managed to get a point, and they are now out of they've now eliminated Space Station Gaming from the race. It's now an SK and G2 race. Let's take a look at the damage done during that game, because I imagine these are pretty huge numbers.
Okay.
Almost
A new record.
1,000
A
damage.
new record. He was not happy about how much damage Samuel was able to do last game.
I mean, to be fair, it's a 33-minute game versus a 20-plus minute game.
Take a look at the
But
captain
still.
damage there. The captains were in 30,000 damage numbers. That's what you usually see out of the carries in Vainglory. So that's the length that this game was. It was unreal to see, but we need to start to talk about this next game as well. You've got something you're dying to tell me.
I just want to talk about the fact that the last game, Qlash went for backdoors because they felt the pressure that they needed to get a backdoor. Once it was late game, it was really hard for them to execute and dive onto the Baron. The only potential that they have to dive onto the Baron is the Rhyme and the Catherine, who don't really have the best dive when it comes to how the characters work. So the only times Baron was dying was when actually Kvalifar was getting out of position and he was getting caught. So the Baron pick, once it got to the late game, it was very hard for Qlash to execute against, and he could just keep his distance. The 5 offensive item build, I really liked it just because he could stay safe and could dish out the damage.
Absolutely. I mean, that is exactly what we were saying right at the start, just after the draft had finished, was that they needed to stop the Baron getting to that late game stage. And it didn't happen in the end. SK going to start off by banning the Rhyme. That's going to be countered with a Cruel ban from Qlash. And Lyra will be the first lock-in.
I do like the Cruel ban because it really shut them down early game. We talked about how they could not pressure the early game. It was just because of how aggressive Tyrus was playing, and he was playing aggressively successfully. There was a kill when... I forgot the name, but Hegman, he traded the kill for the jungler. The opposing jungler was killed for a kill, but it meant that Cruel could go in and get the jungle from the opposing team. Regardless, the Cruel ban is a smart one.
Yeah, there were also multiple times where we saw Tyrus able to get into a great position behind the enemy team and just surprise them with a From Hell's Heart that they were not expecting, and they were able to pick off Mercedes a couple of times because of those plays set up. But this is it's going to be interesting because, you know, now with Qlash getting themselves the Blackfeather on their side, this is something that we've seen, you know, Blackfeather have a lot of impact. They ban away the Kestrel as well, so they're not going to be running a potential Blackfeather Kestrel comp, which we've seen a few teams go for. Obviously, I would assume that they're going to be looking for this Vox pick, unless they want the Blackfeather to be in the lane, but it's not really a pick that we know Mercilli's for.
In my opinion, what Qlash would be best at doing here is to pick up a captain hero so that they can still flex a Blackfeather. They can put it in the jungle or lane. So, for example, if SK decide to go for Rona to counter the Blackfeather, they could then go with a Vox and put the Blackfeather in the jungle as a CP. They go for the Grace and exactly do that.
Well, I mean, normally I would say that the Arden would have been a stronger pick, but with the rate these games have been going, you're going to get to that late game. You're going to get to the point where that Grace has massive impact with their heals. With the duration some of these fights are going, we could see Grace getting 3 or 4 heals off over the course of a single fight. So it makes a bit of sense just based on the way that these two teams have been playing thus far today.
Yeah, I mean, the Grace did a great job last game actually keeping both of her carries alive for so long during these team fights. The multiple heals that came from her ultimate once she picked up the Echo meant that Baron could survive for longer and longer. With a Blackfeather also synergized as well, because when Blackfeather goes in, the Grace can heal him from the backline.
SK taking the Vox away from Qlash. Again, just in case Qlash was thinking of running that CP Blackfeather with the Vox in the lane. Now it's likely to push this Blackfeather a little bit more towards the lane. Obviously, Qlash could still go for something like the Gwen, or, you know, there's a couple other weapon laners that they could look for, but it's likely to be in the lane for the Blackfeather. But the Alpha for Tyrus, once again, wasn't able to have much impact in game number 1, but maybe now in game 3, without that, you know, heavy sustain of a Samuel Lyra, they're going to be able to have more success with it.
They're going to want to put the Blackfeather in the jungle as a CP. I would expect them to pick up Petal, Weapon Power, and Lane. That being said, I think they would not have too much trouble putting Blackfeather in Lane himself. Vox doesn't really hard counter him. Yes, it's a soft counter. It can play against it. It's a skill matchups, though. So Blackfeather can still outplay the Vox and can still come out ahead in that matchup.
15 seconds left on the Qlash timer here, and they're going to go for the Baron themselves. They want to take this one to the late game. But definitely with an Alpha and a Vox, there's the potential for SK to really put the pressure on during the early stages and deny Qlash getting to that late game back.
Alpha Vox, and then you have Lyra in the late game to portal the team onto a Baron and drop a Bulwark. If you portal and Bulwark onto a Baron, he can no longer jump away. He can, if he's in the process of jumping when the Bulwark goes out, the jump will go through and will block it because of the crowd control denial. But if the jump has not started yet, you cannot begin a jump if you are in a Bulwark. So this is a pick that could be very risky for Qlash.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Qlash will have to pressure the early game, or SK will have to pressure the early game so that Baron, once he scales, he doesn't, or he's not able to scale in the first place so that they can shut him down. The portal into the jump jets, it's a very interesting dynamic because Barons can still jump when they see the portal come out. There's a very split-second decision window that they can make out to get out of the Bulwark before it goes down. Some players are able to do that. I remember Best Truck is one of the more renowned players for it in North America, able to do it consistently. Whoever knows, maybe Marcellus has been practicing him.
We'll have to see. I mean, these games have been going incredibly long in this series, and with a Baron locked in, you expect that Qlash want that to continue to be the case here. I want to talk a little bit about the early game. Are we expecting that this is going to be an elevator comp where you try and ramp that Baron as fast as possible, or are we expecting Qlash to kind of just sit back and allow SK to have the early game so that they can try and draw it out?
There's probably going to be a bit of that slower build-up because they have the Grace on their side as well. It's just going to mean that the Grace and the Black Feather, like, they're waiting for all of these to come online. You're waiting for the Echo, you're waiting for the level 8 on Black Feather.
All right, we'll see if they can get to those power spikes. We'll see if they can pull themselves this series. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you want SK to finish off this series or if you believe in the Qlash upset. It's time to pass it back over to our casters. It's Medic and Denominate for game number 3.
Thank you very much, Munch. I am joined by Denominate as we get into the third game of the series, a game that I don't think many people would have predicted would even happen coming into the semi-finals today. I think everyone thought SK, you know, they take the 2-0 over Qlash, they go through to the finals, they look dominant as they always have done, but Qlash here have put up such a strong performance and given us almost an hour's game time over the first 2 games.
Yeah, I think everybody would have expected SK to come into this one and just take a clean 2-0 over Qlash. That was not the case, and Marceli's now picking up this Baron. Agony gonna be in the jungle on the Black Feather.
Oh,
and
disowned solo.
Oh, disowned.
Yeah. You can just see him giggling in the face of SK there, like, yep, I just did that right into the midst of your team, stole away the Elder Treant, and SK with that front-to-back start have been put behind by Disowned.
Someone needs to help Disown and unlock the charms for him. But Agony on the Crystal Blackfeather going to be able to provide a serious amount of poke damage. But Tyra's back on the Alpha here. Saw the Samuel make short work of the Alpha because of the kite potential the Samuel has. It's not the same matchup. I think in the kind of brawler kind of style fight that we're going to have here, it should be Tyra's coming out over Agony in most of these fights, but Marcelius should be able to outtrade more damage than Cavalifar, so I'd expect this one to be a very close and very long game as well. Both teams have a healer as well. Lyra obviously going to capitalize on that early and mid-game healing, but the Grace, once the Divine Intervention is online and we get that Echo for the double Divine Intervention, Disown is going to be able to provide so much additional sustain for the team. I could even, depending on how long this game goes, I could side with maybe getting some crystal power as well, just to give a bigger burst to those heals to allow Marcelius to stay alive all that much longer, as now Agony is rotating up into the lane, but I don't know if they're going to be able to find anything realistic on Cavalifar.
More poke than anything else you have to expect. Marcellus pushes up the lane as well, but Hegman here to help out his laner, and it's not really much found, but nothing really as well for Agony to do. You know, none of his camps are up, his backs have only just respawned. He'll go back, pick up another crystal bit to complement the 2 he already has, and then go back to farming his jungle. You have to expect Tyrus is around mid as well, but he is going to be able to take his backs and just get back to the Elder Treant. Might actually even take that one away before Qlash can realize anything's going on. So good play by SK to be able to secure the second Elder Treant for themselves. Evens it out as a 1-for-1 score. Either team really with a strong advantage early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, again, this is going to be all about the late game. Vox can potentially out-trade Mercilli's here, right? So the breaking point that Kvalifar is going to be able to build up, as well as he's going to be able to afford defense in his build, it's going to allow him to scale up pretty easily on Disowned and Agony. Oh man, Agony almost finds one in Kvalifar. He's going to make it out alive. He's already used that flask, so that's important to make note of as well, as Mercilli's and Disowned have used their flask, so Tyras could be really aggressive here.
Jumps all the way onto Mercilli's, can't quite take him out. Now Disowned is the new target, but Disowned gets that shield, of course, and can just back himself away. Mercilli's will have to go back and heal himself up, but considering he had 2,000 gold in his back pocket, he won't be too worried about that. Gets himself a heavy steal and a 6 sins, and will come back towards the lane once again. Still neither team able to really break the other yet, but we are only 4 minutes in. Maybe we'll break the 40-minute mark this game, Denominator, you never know.
Hey, I'm all down for it. To see two teams that evenly matched for that amount of time, that is a good showing of mistakes made as well as the positive plays made. So, you know, there's a lot that a lot of different teams even can learn from that kind of experience. They can go in and there's a lot to study on other teams' rotations because there's just so much of it. You can see what teams are going to make different rotations and what circumstances. As Kvalifar, up here in the lane has gone with the Poison Shiv first item. There's not a whole lot to be gained off that. That is a very common first item for the box. It gives him sustain in the lane, as well as will reduce the healing that Disowned is able to put in the late game. And I don't think there's really room in a Baron's build for a Poison Shiv, because you're going for that raw burst damage. So there's not really going to be as much of a way to shut down the healing coming out of Hegman.
One of the major difficulties for them, and the healing from Disowned will be shut down pretty easily by Kvalifar and that Poison Shiv. You can see already the Mortal Wounds comes out. Tyrus gets a bit of an engage off, but not able to do too much more. Looks like Agony's going to come up. He hasn't completed that first Crystal Power item, but has an Eclipse Prism and a Heavy Prism sitting in his back pocket, so those on points will start to hurt. As you can see, Hegman just heals him up with the Imperial Sigil, and SK, especially in this point of the game, will be pretty happy if they take these prolonged trades because they have that extra healing before Disowned does get that Divine Intervention and the Echo. Virus has gone for the Aftershock now, so maybe see SK forcing a fight soon. Could see them just wait this one out a little bit more as well, though.
Yeah, they definitely should look for some aggression here pretty soon. Agony is not at level 8 yet. He doesn't have the overdrive on his on point, as well as Hegman has the fountain available, and Disowned has just now rotated to get it. But here comes Tyras. Can they find a pick here? Agony's coming down.
On point goes out onto Kvalifar. The Bright Bulwark used as well. Agony jumping on towards this Elder Treant. Does manage to secure it. Going to turn back on towards Tyras. Great Holy Nova with a knock at Mercilli's. Puts the Ion Cannon down from the side, but Tyras is able to run away with those boots. Agony looking for that second burst offensive. Could go through Tyras here, but he has got the Infinite Reboot and the Termination Protocol. There he goes forward. There's the Termination Protocol, turning it back around. Mercilli's jumps all the way in, dodges the Prime Directive superbly well. And now they're going to turn on to Tyras, the double Holy Nova with the knockups. Kvalifar there. Tyras still alive as he comes back out through the Heroic Perk, but the wait for it is not enough. They've already lost one. SK now need to run away because Mercilli's is on a rampage. He's jumping forward into Kvalifar, who gets one but gets taken out by Disowned in response. Agony now trying to get away. Both the Romans just doing what they can to clean up this fight, but I think Agony should escape from Hegman here. The Crystal Sentry coming forward as well. No arcane passive for Hegman will mean that Qlash take a 2-for-1 trade in the jungle.
Yeah, Qlash starting it off early here. Agony had a great performance there, and he's actually going to get that Treant, which is going to allow him to heal up enough to take these backs, as well as give the Ambient Gold over to Mercilli's. And now he might look to take one more camp and then probably going to recall to top his health off. Be a little bit risky if he rotates over into Tyra. So yep, there's the recall. Going to go ahead, shop. He is level 8 now. He has the extended range on point, and he has the Shatter Glass. And this is really where the Black Feather spike begins. But again, the poke is not going to be a consistent damage source unless if it's getting onto Kvalifar. It's not as effective onto Tyras, who is that tanky frontline. So if he's able to light it up right, he can get the damage through multiple targets, but one of those targets has to consistently be Kvalifar.
Both teams settled into the lane for the time being. A 300 gold lead for SK is not insurmountable in any way for Qlash. Today we are starting to see those first items being picked up across the board. Pyro's with the Aftershock, and Kvalifar actually got 2 items now with the Poison Shiv and the Breaking Point, so he is going to be able to stack up through these fights. We've seen how effective he can be. Game 1, his Black Feather was incredibly strong when he got those breaking point stacks, and Vox even easier to build them up with. So all eyes on the Vox coming into these next 2 team fights. That's SK's win condition, and the win condition for Qlash has to be to shut down Kvalifar, one of the main carries for SK, consistently a strong laner. Needs to be caught out, captured by Qlash if they're going to take a 2-1 in this series.
Yeah, Kvalifar easily capable of running this Vox and Baron and having a decent amount of success. Now, the Baron will outrange Kvalifar, specifically the more points he puts into his ultimate, and it does increase his basic attack range, but they have to use that to their advantage. If they allow the side of SK to dive in, and the Bright Bulwark is a beautiful example of how they can do so. We can get the Arcane Passage in, drop the Bright Bulwark, and for a couple seconds, Mercilles is not going to be able to use his jump jets to make that escape, and that's going to allow Tyras and Kvalifar to start building up that damage on the Mercilles.
Exactly what they want. Disown jumps in, double Holy Nova knockup, but Qlash were not in the position to follow it up. The Mortal Wounds is hitting onto Disown, and look at him, he's getting shredded even with the Healing Flask. Doesn't use the Fountain Iron Cannon from Mercilles in case the dive continued, but it's a big ultimate down. Disown down in health as well, and those bounces are starting to hurt onto Qlash. Kvalifar pushing forward for this turret here. Tyrus takes a poke. Disown jumps in. Kvalifar's going to take a Porcupine Mortar, but they don't do too much. Pursuit will heal up all of SK. That healing more reliable than the healing coming out from Disowned. Doesn't have the Echo. Only one Divine Intervention available for him. Steps forward once again. Here comes Agony with a flank, but not able to make a catch at all, really. And Qlash are so reliant on a good engage, a good Holy Nova, really, to get them into these fights, because apart from that, they have no crowd control. The jump comes in as the turret falls. Good play by SK to get the first turret of the game.
Yeah, they're definitely taking advantage where they have it. Alpha has this strong mid-game spike starting up, and it's consistent bursts of damage using the core charge to proc that aftershock onto a target. And now Disowned, he has the Atlas Pauldron available that is going to be a nice utility for getting onto Kvalifar, slowing down his attack speed, and that's going to prevent him from building up breaking point stacks freely in a fight and allow Agony and Mercilles more time to get the damage in. Now, Mercilles has gone into a Monocle and working into his second one. And what we saw out of Kvalifar last game was he built the Tension Bow very early and then eventually went into a Bonesaw. And the Armor Breaker does not stack on those two items, so he should have gone one or the other, and it may have made it a little bit easier to close out the games. I specifically think that, dropping the Tension Bow would have been the right path to go, as we see right there, a big shot coming through, and the Arcane Passage is in.
Tyrus takes a lot of damage in response, so the wait for it does come out. Tyrus having to jump out of this fight. The Iron Cannon used a bit of a misposition there as well, but Tyrus was the one who was chunked at the start of that fight. Still no Fountain used by either team, so they do have that available if the re-engage happens, but SK willing just to stay back a little bit further, clear out that wave, and then go back and try and get some vision control around the Qlash jungle.
Definitely looking to do so. This Baron is getting to the point that he's coming online. He's taking the opportunity now to recall and get that second Monocle built. And Agony has gone into a second Shatterglass. And now, while this will provide a decent amount of burst, it is heavily countered by shield being built. So we'll have to see if Kvalifar recognizes that and sells off this flask after the next time he uses it. He should sell it off and start working into a kinetic shield or a reflex block at least.
See if he does do that, but still, SK in the driver's seat in this game. Not too far ahead, but 1,000 gold is nothing to be sniffed at. They once again just do this rotation. They're very happy just to continually wait this one out. Do the rotation, come back, start the gold miner up. Those infusions ticking as well. Qlash with only an infusion on Mercilles need to be a little bit cautious as to how they approach this fight, especially since it's only a level 9 infusion, but Disown jumps in. The rest of SK go the other way. There's the wait for it as well, and already we see the kill onto Mercilles. They pull the trigger, immediately snipe down that Baron, and now Disowned is in the midst of SK. There's the Prime Directive. It's a double for Tyrus. They'll take the Crystal Sentry as well, and they can go back towards that gold miner if they want. Kvalifar looking to chase Agony out of his jungle. Takes away the Treant, takes away the backs, takes away basically everything. A great engage from SK. And a game-defining fight you have to feel.
Yeah, it definitely was a key capitalization from SK there. They bring the lead up 3-2, but this game has still looked very even. I do give the edge over to SK in these fights. Their positioning is near perfect for that last one at least. And now with the gold mine payout, they are going to take a 3,000 gold lead. And I think this is really where SK needs to start to push an advantage while they have it. Kvalifar does have the Sorrow Blade complete now, as well as building into that Metal Jacket, and they are going to be able to kite around this Black Feather. As long as Tyros and Kvalifar are not standing in a line, that's going to make it very difficult for Agony to dish out the damage that he needs to on this Crystal Mage Black Feather.
Echo finished for Hegman as well, so he can look for double Arcane Passage, double Bright Bulwark, double Imperial Sigil if you want that extra healing as well. A lot of different opportunities for him. Double Shatter finished on Agony, so he's looking for the pure outright damage on the CP Black Feather, but hasn't really been able to land the poke where he wants it. There's the first Imperial Sigil going down. The Holy Nova misses. Bright Bulwark used as well, but good poke onto Kvalifar once again. Does chunk him out a little bit. The 3,000 gold lead for SK, and if these fights, if it's just an engaged, disengaged, then SK seem to be in the advantage because they have this Lyra, because they have that consistent healing. Disowned has got an Echo of his own, so he'll be looking for those divine interventions. Kvalifar with a flank, going for Marcellus, just needs that damage on the backline. The jump in, the Arcane Passage brings Tyrus back into the midst of the team. Agony there as well, trying to get the Rose offensive away, but the chase from Tyrus is impressive. And SK get another kill for themselves. They're going to go for the Crystal Sentry as well to secure that second one of the game. Leave it with only one life remaining, and perhaps the amount of lives that Qlash have as well, as they are looking like they are in a bad position here against SK.
Yeah, definitely looking rough, and could specifically see in that last fight how ineffective Agony is at Tyros. He landed 2 on points onto Tyros directly and barely tickled him. And now that the Metal Jacket is complete for Kvalifar, it makes it very difficult for Marcellus to come in and actually get return damage because of the changes onto the way armor and shielding work. Kvalifar just doesn't take the burst coming out of Marcellus that we would hope. Now, Marcellus does appear to be building into a breaking point that could help ramp the damage up and get past the Metal Jacket, but we really need to see some Pierce come out of Marcellus, and we really need to see... I honestly don't even like the second Shatterglass. I would have liked to see a Shatterglass, a Dragon's Eye, and a Broken Myth on Blackfeather. It's just too difficult for him to be a damage threat at this point.
Well, the Dragon's Eye is finished on towards Tyros, so you have a Dragon's Eye somewhere in the game, at least, Denominate. The SK now very much in the front seat of this game, the driver's seat, you might say, as Agony looks to try and poke him with the on point, but the Kraken up, they're getting vision control as much as they can. They can push forward and try and take out this final Crystal Sentry as well, and Qlash not really able to respond to this one. Here comes Disowned in with the Holy Nova, but that's not going to connect onto anyone. The Iron Cannon used as well. Tyra's there, the wait for it comes out, the silence is going to land on the Hegman as they jump into the back line. The Bright Bulwark absolutely huge with the Divine Intervention. The healing from the fountains is big enough, not quite enough to heal up Marcellus, and with that Crystal Sentry going down, Agony's going to fall as well. It's a double. SK are going to get the ace here and clean up this fight. They'll look for the Kraken as well. SK with a great team fight, looking to close this game out quickly.
Yeah, and this is looking more and more like SK's game with every single instance that we have. There's just not a whole lot that Qlash at this point can actually do to contest. I mean, Tyros has a Metal Jacket, Kvalifar has a Metal Jacket, the healing coming out of Hegman. He even has an Echo here on the Lyra to help the team sustain, or, can use it on that Bulwark as well, and that's going to keep Marcellus from escaping the damage, as well as prevent Agony from using his Faint of Heart or his Rose offensive. And now, Kraken is taken with 3 turrets between SK and a victory. If they can find the kills onto Marcellus and onto Agony here, they can end the game on this one last push. If Qlash is able to hold out, if they're able to take the Kraken down and find an ace of their own, they very well may be able to turn this game around. But Kvalifar is not even going into any shielding now. He's just going into a 4th offensive item on Vox because they've been so dominantly ahead, and he's relying so much on Hegman for the healing.
And with the Kraken push in, you feel that SK are just couple of minutes away, perhaps a couple of moments away, one team fight away from securing that spot in the finals. Once again, the jump in with the Arcane Passage. They just keep going on to Merciless, but he will get out this time. There's a wait for it used as well. That first turret is going to fall as the Kraken pushes in. The Iron Cannon used, the Zone jumps forward. There's the Imperial Sigil for the healing. Tyra's down to about half HP, and maybe SK will realize that this is not the best time for them to be fighting, but they can keep pushing in if they want. The Zone jumps forward. There's a Brave Bulwark used. Once again, the Holy Nova is going to land only onto Tyra's. That Kraken very low, but so is the turret. SK now do back away. Agony looking for a little bit of a chase as the Zone jumps in with the Benediction. They're not going to be able to get too much more out of that. Kraken falls, only one turret goes down, but some good damage on towards that Crystal turret, and they have broken that choke point towards the base of Qlash.
Yeah, and that's such a key turret to have down. It's now so much distance that Qlash would need to run back to get to the safety of their base. Obviously, with the Vein Crystal turrets being further down in the base, they don't really provide you any defense of getting back to that fountain, as it's just SK finding fight after fight at this point. Kvalifar is able to dance around Agony and, not taking any return punishment for their aggressive tactics. And Tyra's is able to just get in and continuously spam out that Aftershock proc. And then as that Dragon's Eye builds up, that Prime Directive with the 3 stacks of Core Overload is so potent. It's almost like a second ultimate. It does so much damage. And SK, they're only up 7-2 as far as the kills go, but they're up 4,500 gold. Every single fight has looked in their favor. They might not have found ace after ace after ace, racking up a massive amount of kills, but even when they don't get the kills, they have forced Qlash so far back that they can't do anything about it. Tyra's is going in on Agony here. Again, those on points just do nothing.
Arcane Passage straight onto the backline as well. There's the wait for it, and already Merciless is dead. These Arcane Passages have been absolutely beautiful. 2 kills down. Disown the last one standing. I've said that many a time this game. He's going to fall as well. And SK will be able to close out the game. Such a dominant performance from them here in Game 3. First 2 games a lot more scruffy, but this game will be closed out pretty easily. The SK will be going through to the finals later on today.
Yeah, they absolutely will. And this looked like a totally different team than we saw in game number 1 or game number 2. They're able to pull it out, though, in a 20-minute game. No 40-minute game here today yet, Medic, but maybe later we can get one of those blessings as SK, they go ahead and they secure a second point today, as well as moving on to the finals awards them a bonus 2 points